Hi, everyone, and Happy New Year to you. Still a new year. And welcome to EduTALK. EduTALK is a weekly virtual talk show created out of the need for a global learning community focused on topics in education that directly impact Caribbean nations and diaspora nationals across the globe. EduTALK features teachers, principals, administrators, business leaders, and dignitaries who share their expertise on critical topics facing education today with the common goal of moving education forward and our students upward. I'm your host, I'm Dr. Dwayne Dice, and I'm the CEO of Education Solutions International, ESI. Visit educationsolutionsinternational.org for more details. And on EduTalk this week, we are featuring none other than Miss Shauna-Kaye Brown, Esquire. She's an attorney at law, and she's also quite a few hats she's wearing. She is an author, and she's also a leadership coach. And we're going to get into a lot of that with her. As I was saying to her before we came online, that she has been driving traffic on social media, and she has her own website as well. And we're going to hear as much about her and how to contact her for speaking engagement and other business opportunity. Very, very prolific and productive woman. Welcome to EduTalk, Shauna-Kaye.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So you have been around for a while in the this, as I said, productive and moving forward, very innovative in your own self, and keep on doing things that getting you into spotlights here and there, because this is not the only show you have been on. Can you tell us what you have been involved in? What's your platform?
That question sounds simple, but because I've been involved in so many different things, sometimes it's just a matter of what I choose to magnify in the moment. But I would say over the past, say, 5 to 7 years, I've been primarily involved in nonprofit leadership as well as speaking. Those are the primary things that I've been focusing on because I realize that speaking is a good outlet that I can use to reach people and to impact lives.
Oh, okay. All right. So you also, yeah, so speaking with nonprofit and so on, you're also a lawyer.
Yes.
And can you give us the background to your law professional life?
It's quite interesting actually because I graduated law school back in 2014. However, I didn't really practice law for a very long time. While I was in Jamaica, I worked in the several courts in the corporate area. So I was in the Supreme Court, a Court of Appeal, Family Court, and mainly what I did was research. And I also worked as a judicial clerk for some judges while I was at the Supreme Court. That was quite interesting. However, since I left Jamaica, I haven't been practicing actually. It is something I may go back to at some point in time, but right now that's not my primary focus.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So we'll focus on what you're doing now. Yeah. So it seemed like it's a seasonal thing, like this season of your life, you're doing this, and then later on you might revert. It's good to have that background though, because it runs right across all divisions and organizations when you understand the law and policy. So that's very good. That's very good. So if people ask you or us, who is Miss Shauna-Kaye Brown, what ideas would you share about your life growing up or and becoming you? What would you share?
So I like that because it does show a sort of metamorphosis for me because I was born in Jamaica. I grew up in rural Jamaica, one of 6 children for my mother. And I also had a sister on my father's side. So it was a pretty big family. And I always share, when I share my story, that somehow growing up in abject poverty prepared me for this moment. Because one of the things that my mother instilled in us when we were growing up was that the only way out of poverty is through an education. So whatever you did, you had to take up your book. And for me, even though I can't say I completely comprehended what she was saying, but a part of it made sense to me. And so I got into reading from a very early age, and I kind of stayed on that trajectory all my life. And today I like to say that I am a lifelong learner. I love knowledge. I love learning new things. And in a way, I know a little bit about a lot of different things. And because of that, when I find myself in different rooms, even the ones I didn't expect to be in, I can navigate my way. And I'm very grateful for that. I feel like my mother created that foundation, and my father too, because he was very strict about learning. I was learning things at age 5 that the average student was not learning. You know, my father, well, I don't know if you remember the Student's Companion and the First Aid in English,
Yes,
but
yes,
he would just
yes.
nail that. Like before I even got to grade 1, I had to be learning synonyms and antonyms and all those things. So my parents valued education, and I feel like that's why I ended up on this trajectory. And today it's no different. I'm always looking for ways to advance my knowledge, because I feel like in order for me to impact lives, I have to have factual and good information. And you asked me about if people were to say, "Who is Shauna-Kaye today?" My response would be that Shauna-Kaye is someone who was created to impact people's lives positively, primarily to empower, to educate, and to inspire individuals. And that's why I do what I do.
Wow, wow. Okay. Very inspirational. And it draws me back to my own background, because my grandmother used to say the same thing, that education is the only way out of poverty. When I was there growing up on the farm in Jamaica and in St. Anne, and I remembered, a lot of that resilience is still inside of me. I feel as if it runs in my vein like blood, that I look at things and I'm thinking, I should do something about it, or I should adapt to this to fit this situation and so on. So yeah, I fully understand what you're saying when you say. So you mentioned nonprofit earlier. Give us a little bit about what you do in nonprofit.
Sure. So
Yeah, the reason I'm asking you that is because we operate from a nonprofit to Education Solution International, and we focus on education, educational leadership, coaching and training, educational workshops, conferences, seminars, forums. We highlight a bunch of things in my nonprofit, and then we write articles to get people to understand not just Black history, but history on a whole, and people to understand people throughout the regions. So I want to know what you do with nonprofit, the sphere, in the sphere of nonprofit.
certainly. So I've been involved in nonprofit management for the past, I would say, a little over 6 years. And I work primarily with disenfranchised groups such as the homeless. So right now, actually, I run a homeless program for single men 55 and older. And we basically help them to be reintegrated into society by eliminating barriers to homelessness. We teach that homelessness is a symptom, because whenever someone finds themselves in that situation around the world, and primarily in Western societies, there's a stigma attached to them. And people tend to believe that a person is homeless because it's their fault, they didn't make the right choices, things of that nature. But sometimes there are more complex barriers to homelessness than that. And so what we do is we try to get beneath that surface, try to see what is the reason why you're in this position, and what can we do to help you to avoid those pitfalls in the future. So it is quite a fulfilling experience being in nonprofit management. About 2 years ago, I expanded that to nonprofit training and leadership as well. So while I'm managing a program, I am also simultaneously training staff So I am involved heavily in staff development, training and development. And the areas that I focus on are effective communication, goal setting, interpersonal communication, things of that nature. So whenever new staff come in, one of the primary things that we do is we help them to set up succession plan. So whether you want to grow in the agency or you have a life goal that takes you outside of the agency, it doesn't matter, because we're in the business of developing people. And so it is not limited to whether or not you want to grow with us, but if you want to grow as a person.
In general, yeah. Oh, I didn't know you were doing so much work with people on the ground, like you're heart to heart and hand to hand with them. But what gives you that momentum and drive to do it for in nonprofit? Because you could have done anything else.
Absolutely. I could have
Yeah,
done anything else, literally.
yeah. What?
I am that open-minded, but you know what it is? It is people.
Mhm.
Over the years, I realized how much I love people and I love to add value to people. I don't have to know you, it doesn't matter. I feel like our stint here on earth is long or short, depending on what you do with it. But
True,
one thing is for certain is that we don't know what tomorrow brings.
true.
And so what you do now, what you do in the moment is the most important thing. And along my journey, like I mentioned earlier, I grew up very poor. And as you would imagine, for me to get to where I am today, people were involved in that. And a lot of those people were strangers. They didn't know me from Adam. They just saw something in me and they decided, I'm going to make an investment, not
Yeah,
because of the promise of return to them, but just wanting to help me to move forward. And I feel like not out of obligation or anything like that. I just feel like it is imperative that I do the same for someone else. So that's why I do what I do, because I love people. I love to see people's lives change. I love personal transformation. And I love to be that force behind reminding someone that they have the capacity to advance their position, irrespective of what they're going through now or what they've been through.
yeah. I'm very glad that you're talking about this at the beginning of the year because people need to hear this. That the people love part of it. People love, one of my hashtag is people love and people first. Whenever I post things online relating to nonprofit and work that we do in education. And it's true, it's very true that you have to have a love first of all for people and then driving the change from that angle. So then you'll not focus on the frivolous passing things. You
Yeah.
focus on the more enduring aspect of people's lives to continuously changing them. And then once you change them, they change other people as well. That's very remarkable. Um, you seem like you have a very approachable personality type. And that's remarkable too in leadership. I was looking through your profile too, and I saw that you have the John Maxwell leadership and coaching certification, which is very good. If Dr. Barker was here on the program, he would have been celebrating you because he has the same leadership
Oh,
certification. Yeah. And
that's awesome.
he's using it. He's actually using it. So you guys could connect across the Atlantic Ocean because he's in England and talk about it and see how best you can, do some work together in that area, which is very, very remarkable. Can you give us the background to that and like how you got involved in it or knew about it? Because the only time I knew John Maxwell was, well, it's two programs I did in the two master's programs, previous master's programs that I did the first one and I learned about John Maxwell's coaching and I have his book, couple books I have from him, and we adopted his approach to leadership. And then I went into another master's program and I got more material from him again through the professors. And I'm thinking, this guy is really remarkable with changing the platform of leadership and leadership mindset. So give us your take on how you got involved with John Maxwell leadership approach.
So you're not going to believe this, Dr. Dice.
I will
But
be.
so, unlike most people that I've met at the conference and online that have been through the Don Maxwell program, I didn't know who John Maxwell was. I had
Mm-hmm.
never heard about him. But in 2016, I received a little bit of money. I
Yeah,
wouldn't say it was a lot, but it was about 5,000 US dollars.
yeah.
And I wanted to invest in something that was going to be a lifelong investment. And that's not a lot of money. So you have to be very selective in what you do. And
Mm.
so that brought me to what I like to call the University of Google, right? Because you can
Yeah,
find
yeah.
so many things on Google. So I went online and I started researching to see what I could invest in. So
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for leadership and speaking. And the only reason I was so particular in my search was that just before I invested in the program, which was around October, I
Mm-hmm.
went to a conference in Atlanta and I met this young lady who opened my eyes to the possibility of speaking for a living. I didn't know there was such a thing. And I've
Oh,
always been a good speaker. It is
yeah.
something I love to do. I can connect with people this way. And I've just always been involved in speaking from high school. I was in debate, I was in um, moot court in law school, all of that. So when I learned that you could become a speaker and get paid for it, I said, what? If you can get paid for what you love, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
so that sort of helped me to narrow down my search. And as I was searching, that's when I came across John Maxwell's program. So I did a little bit of research and I realized that that was exactly what I was looking for. I contacted them and I spoke with an advisor. They gave me a rundown of the program and I just paid for it in full, which was pretty much all the money that I received. I paid for the
Yeah.
program. It's a lifetime membership. And
Yes.
that's how I became a member and I started to read this material. Now, I know you're a little bit familiar with it, but Dr. Barker could tell you that the information that is there, you can never get through all of it. John Maxwell himself, he has written 87 books,
Wow. I
right?
didn't
And
know that.
he's 78 years old and he's saying that he has at least 12 more books to write. So this
Wow.
is a prolific leadership expert, but he will never call himself an expert. And
Wow.
that for me was humbling because I do
Yeah.
not know 1/10 of what he knows.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to be in an environment like that where the information is always there that I can take advantage of, it is
Mm-hmm.
a blessing to me. So
Mm-hmm.
getting into the program was just through research and realizing that that was what I was looking for at that time.
Yeah. What is the length of the program?
So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The program doesn't have a length per se. Once you become a member and you're paid in full, you're a lifelong member.
Okay.
So no matter what upgrades they make to their program, whatever expansion, you're still a member and you have access to all the foundational parts of it. So you
Wow.
have the training that's going to help you to become a prolific speaker,
Mm-hmm.
trainer, and coach. It's
Mm-hmm.
all there.
Mm-hmm.
And however, in order for you to be certified to offer the John Maxwell trainings, you have
Right.
to receive that certification you saw on my profile.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That requires you to go to the conference, which is held twice a year, and
Mm-hmm.
usually it's in Orlando.
Oh.
And even though I've been a member since 2016, I didn't get certified until August of this year.
Oh.
But it's
Wow.
a lifelong membership.
Okay. Okay. So you have to, is it that you have to go to the conferences in order to be certified?
Well, it's a process because you
Mm-hmm.
have to prepare, you have to give a speech,
Mm-hmm.
and there are speaking tracks if you want to be a speaker, or coaching track if you want to be a coach. And ideally,
Oh,
you
okay.
want to get through that before
Yeah.
you go to the conference. And when you get through the program, then you get a certification for completing it.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's a process that I guess like most of these online platforms, it's self-paced.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 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 Wow. Interesting. That's very interesting. Um, so the does it set you up like for networking um engagements with other people across America or across the globe?
Well, absolutely, across the globe. For
Okay.
example, when I was at the conference in August, I
Mm-hmm.
met people from every continent.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of people from Africa. There were people from Asia, of course, North America, plethora.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people from the Caribbean, and you'd be surprised to know how many Jamaicans are involved in the Maxwell program.
As usual.
Yes, and you
Yeah.
sit at these tables, and it's just a melting pot. You're
Oh,
sitting beside someone who just traveled 13 hours to get to the conference. So when you talk about networking, that's an understatement.
Yeah.
You meet the most interesting people, from business owners to corporate leaders, nonprofit leaders, just all different types of individuals who believe in growth and development and have the tenacity to commit to that.
Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's remarkable on your part to become a part of something like that. And even just the research part of it to get involved, you know, it's very remarkable. You talk about resilience and innovative. Okay, so that's, I think we have a good idea of who you are, professionally speaking. Um, so the other part of it is um the 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 work that you do as an author.
Mhm.
And I noticed that you have some books coming out. I think two books you have coming out, and then you published one recently in December of this
Mhm.
year. I think one of your book, the strategic goal setting handbook, and then you have an accompanying workbook as well for that one. Can you tell us about your work as an author? To give us, like, actually give us the name of the book that you published already, because it's one or two you published already.
It's a couple actually. So the first book that I was a part of, it was an anthology, and that was in 2017.
Okay.
So a primary aim for that was to share my story. So that book is called The Courageous World Catalysts.
Oh,
That's my first book,
yeah.
or I would say my first contribution to a book. The second one was the first edition of this book, the Strategic Goal Setting Handbook, and that was published in December of 2017. It was really short, just about maybe 40 pages.
Okay.
However, it really reinforced my belief in what Les Brown says, which is that you don't have to be great to get started, but you have
Thank
to
you.
start to become
Yep.
great.
Love
And
Les Brown. Love,
I
love,
love
love.
Les Brown.
Yeah,
He's my
yeah,
favorite. He's my mentor.
yeah, yeah.
And when I wrote that book back then, I could not have dreamed of the doors it would have opened for me.
Mm-hmm.
But writing that book opened doors for me to speak to postgraduate students at LIU, New York Institute of Technology, UW St. Augustine. And it just makes me realize that you always have to just keep going and you
Yeah.
always seek to better your best. So in 2020, I published a devotional because I'm a Christian. So a lot of my work is inspired by the Bible and other Christian authors. So I published the devotional in 2020. It's actually called 2020 Vision Devotional. That one is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, different platforms. And
Where are
then
the other ones available? The previous ones? Same
Amazon
Amazon?
primarily, yes.
Okay.
The different Amazon markets, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and of course America, North America.
Mm-hmm.
Then this year in December, I published a second edition of the Strategic Goal Setting Handbook. And my coach inspired me to publish an accompanying workbook to give you the practical aspects. So you're not just reading, but you are in a position to apply what you just read. So those two were published on December 12th.
Oh, cool.
And then next month, I have another book. It's called Communicate Like a Pro. And that book is aimed at sharing my strategies for communication, primarily interpersonal communication, and helping people to understand that that transcends the professional world. Communication is going to help you in your personal relationships, friendships, professional, in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
A
Does it?
relationship can break down because of ineffective communication.
Yeah. Is it primarily towards your work in nonprofit, or it's anybody?
No, actually, it's not primarily towards my work in nonprofit. Anybody is a bit broad, but in a way, yes, in that I am not limiting anyone who can use this book and benefit from it.
Okay.
But ideally, these books are for individuals who want to transform their lives.
Okay.
They may not be of that mindset yet that it is even possible, but they know that there is more and they have that desire to achieve it. So the book is for individuals who want to take that step to make some changes and to not live that mediocre life anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
most of what I write is in the area of personal development generally.
Okay. And then so you talk about there's one that you mentioned, I think in one of your posts online on Facebook, changing followers into leaders. Is something like that.
Yes.
What is that I'm trying to figure out if it's the stance you take to make sure that people around you in leadership, that the people who are considered as subordinate or followers, that you train them in such a way that they can take over anytime? Is that
So that's an excellent question, and that position was actually inspired by the late Dr. Miles Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am glad you asked me that question, because if you were to interview the people I work with, they would tell you that's exactly what I do.
Okay.
So earlier I mentioned that a big part of what we do is succession planning.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that an effective leader should always have someone who can take over from them,
Mm-hmm.
someone who can operate effectively in their absence. For example, when I go on vacation, I shouldn't have to be worried about whether or not things are going
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
I
Yep.
shouldn't have to have people calling me and asking me, where is this, or how do I do that? I should be confident that whomever is there can carry on just as well as I do when I'm there, or even better. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter to me. I
Yeah.
always tell my subordinates that I am training you to take my position, because once I've created an impact and I have set a foundation, I'm ready to move to the next thing. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to say that, oh, I've been in this position for 20 years. I think that's ludicrous.
Yeah.
That's not 20 years of experience. That's the same experience 20 times.
Yes, that's
I
very true.
cannot, I cannot do that. So succession planning and cross training is a big part of what we do. And running this nonprofit program, I have a little under 30 staff that I oversee. And one of the things that we do is cross training. That means if you're a case manager, for example, you can still do what an entitlement specialist does.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a social worker, you can still do what a case manager does. So if a case manager falls sick, or we don't have enough and the clients need to be seen, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you come in with the mindset that that's not my job description, I have no problem showing you that you have options, and I will help you find those options too. Because in almost every job description, there is that all-encompassing line and other duties as assigned. And I like to draw everyone's attention to that from they come to the door. So there's a buy-in,
Mm-hmm.
because when people know that you genuinely believe in them and you're supportive, you can get them to do almost anything. And I don't want that to sound like a reckless thing, because that doesn't mean I'm going to manipulate them. Not at all. I do not believe in that. But when I say you can get them to do almost anything, I mean you can get them to support the vision.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, that's really, really remarkable. Because usually people, I'm hoping people are listening and take lessons from this, because usually when people go into organizations and they interview others for jobs, they listen for the kind of pitfalls that they would say, no, this person is not gonna make it here, instead of seeing the person through and helping them to understand the vision, because they have certain skills that might become
Yes.
useful. Yeah, that's very good that you at least you try first, if it's even on probation period. That's really remarkable. All right, as we're winding down with our show, but I honestly I could talk to you for a very, very long time. I'm gonna invite you to, because we do have forums to talk about leadership in general, but also to look at how people lead effectively and innovatively, because we're trying to change the mindset of people, especially in the diaspora, to think outside the box, or to think that there's no box. You're just thinking, I'm making waves
Right.
without thinking about that there is any compartment that you are in. You're not actually in it. So the sky is the limit. Um, do you find that you encounter barriers when the more you climb, or the more you climb in terms of your growth as a leader and in leadership development? Do you find that you have more barriers to break through, or it's like free fall with you as you grow older into leadership?
So it is an interesting dynamic. And I believe whether or not you whether or not you construe what you're experiencing as a barrier is greatly dependent on your mindset, right? I
Mhm.
remember when I first came to America, the people I was around would say to me that I have a lot of strikes against me. And what they meant was that, and they would point them out. There were three main things that they would point out. One, I am not from here, I'm from the Caribbean. So essentially, I'm a foreigner.
Yes.
Secondly, I am a woman. And
Oh,
thirdly, I'm Black.
yes.
And those were the people that I was listening to. Those were the people who were around me. When I went to the conference in October, there's this
Mhm.
Jamaican young lady. Her name is Paige Fletcher, and she's my mentor. She
Mhm.
lives in Atlanta. And
Mhm.
I found her online too.
Mhm.
After someone introduced me to one of her books, and I was determined to meet her, and I paid so much money, and I went for a one-day conference.
Oh,
I
God.
met her. She became my mentor.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she said was, if you're the smartest one in the room, find a new room. And she said that you are essentially a reflection of the people who are in your circle. I listened to that, I took notes. And when I came home and I was reviewing my notes, those were the things that stood out to me. So I
That's
knew that I had to change the people who were around me because they were not telling me the right thing. And it was somewhere in that moment that I realized that the things that they were pointing out as strikes against me were the things that would make me stand out. So I started to say, well, I'm Jamaican, so I'm going to stand out. And I would say, I'm a woman, so I'm going to do these things that they don't expect a woman to do.
yes.
And I'm Black and I'm grateful, and I don't care what color or
Right.
race you are. I treat
Mhm.
everybody the same way, which is one of the reasons why I get along with my clients. And I've
Yeah.
always been that way. When I
Yeah.
was in Jamaica and I was in college, I met the prime minister and all of that. It was easy for me to talk to them because it was just another person, of course, with respect. And people would just wonder, but I didn't know how to be any different.
Good.
And
Good.
so I said, those things are actually positives.
Mhm.
Now, you asked me about navigating this terrain as I grow in leadership and whether or not I find there to be more barriers.
Yeah.
Yes, there are challenges. I
Mhm.
haven't really measured to say if they have increased or not, but there are constant challenges. And I welcome them because I feel like they help me to grow and
Mhm.
to expand my mind and look for other avenues and other pathways. And one of the things that happened along the way was that I would seek to get into certain rooms, but I would be told no, the doors would be closed essentially.
Mhm.
And I realized that even though those doors closed, there are avenues I can use to create my own room.
Mhm.
That's why I became so consistent on social media.
Mhm.
And the interesting thing about that is you'll get online and you'll have the most significant information that can impact lives,
Mhm.
and not many people will engage. But
Mhm.
you put up something superficial and frivolous, and a lot of people will engage.
That's true.
But I've learned that that's
Yes.
not a deterrent at
Yes.
all. It
Yeah.
is not, because it is not about whether or not they engage now. It's about me doing what is purposeful and what needs to be done, because when the time is right, the
Mhm.
right person will be impacted.
Very
And
true.
that's why I keep doing it. So yes, there are barriers. I think that those barriers will probably increase,
Mhm.
Dr. Dice, as time goes by, but
Mhm.
I'm more interested to find ways to navigate them. And that's my focus.
That's very good. That's very good. That's the primary reason why I started EduTalk as well, is because I remember when I was in Florida, and your story is very inspirational. Very, I'm telling you, remarkable. Um, I was running a program, a mentorship program in a school that I created the program, and I asked, it went off like wildfire in the school, and I called Fox 13, nobody showed up. I called NBC, Channel 8 there, and they said that no, they're not doing any stories yet. We have to wait until it's like breaking news. And so I said, I have a program in the school, and it's a community program, and they refused to cover the program, all because it was the school program. And I'm so sure that if somebody had died down the street, they would have been there. If the school was on fire, they would have been there.
Mhm.
But they wouldn't show up for the community school partnership program, a mentorship program that involve a lot of students and community leaders. They wouldn't show up at all. So I said, instead of going out and trying to get these people to become a part of it, why not create a platform for your own and feature community people, feature
Right.
people who are making waves, you know? So yeah, you're right. Like, go out there, do the opposite of what these people are saying, because a lot of their barriers are, they're trying to project the barriers on you and
Absolutely.
telling you, no, you can't do this. It's the same thing we encounter growing up as well. The 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 progressive nature that we have is because we move against somebody else's barrier. Yeah,
Sure.
that's very good. So keep on making waves. And One of the things that what I'm encouraging you to do too is tapping into women leadership, especially later on this year. I usually feature women in March because it's Women's Month. And some of the articles that I would write is geared towards that time of the year to motivate young girls, young Black girls who might feel inferior to whatever they see on TV or in social media. They feel very inferior, and we try to motivate them. And even the ones who are very motivated already, encourage them to lift other people up too.
Mhm. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Is there anything you want to say to start the year, to anybody, to start off this year, because we're very new with the year? It feels like the same to me. It's just the date change because you have certain momentum that you have in you, and you say, I'm gonna fulfill this by March or April or May or so on, and you're in that mindset. So it doesn't feel new to me. It's just the date, and I have to remind myself that it is a new year. So what about you, and encouraging people?
So there's an interesting thing about the new year. Maybe interesting is not the right word because it's a common thing. A
Yeah.
lot of people set resolutions, and we know that with New Year resolutions, after a few weeks, if some of us go that far, you abandon them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and so one of the things I would say to anyone who is listening is that do not pressure yourself into committing to the proverbial resolution. See this new year as an opportunity for a fresh start, just like when you wake up in the morning and you have that opportunity. Don't see it any differently. Don't pressure yourself like that. Live in the moment. And one of the reasons behind me writing the goal setting book was to get people's minds away from this idea of setting resolutions to just setting goals. And this is an ongoing process. You don't need a new year to set a goal.
Yeah.
And, Earl Nightingale, who wrote The Strangest Secret, he says that a man without a goal is like a ship without a rudder. It has no aiming point or sense of direction. And so it is likely to end up on a deserted beach, a derelict. It's the
Definitely.
same way with us.
Yeah.
If we don't have goals and a plan of action to execute, we will wind up somewhere in our lives, but we may not like it. And so what I would say to your listeners is set goals, develop an action plan, and take a step each day. Like George S. Clayson says, don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. So compartmentalize, break it up, and take a step every day. Commit to that. Commitment is an action word. And the final thing I will say is this. Every year, I choose a word, and I allow that word to help me to sort of streamline my focus throughout the year. This year, my word is commitment. I have to constantly remind myself that commitment means taking action. So when I'm plagued by procrastination and everything else that distract you and detract from your dreams, I am reminded that I have to take action in
Yeah.
furtherance of one of these goals. And that's what will keep me on track. To the person who is listening, I would say choose a word. Whatever word you choose, focus, dedication. It can be a simple word. It doesn't matter. Choose a word and allow that to manifest in your life every single day.
That's very good. Very, very good. So tell us, I won't even talk over your words. That's very powerful. Um, for your books and for your contact, for speaking engagement and so on, how can people reach you?
Sure. So my books are available on Amazon. So any Amazon platform, whether it is .co or .uk or .com, which is the most popular one, you can find my books there. You can type in Shauna-Kaye Brown, or you can just type in the name of the book. You'll find it there. In terms of contacting me, my email address is shauna.brown@gmail.com. So that's SHAUNA, the letter K, Brown, as in the color, speaks with an S @gmail.com. I can be found on different social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as Shauna-Kaye Brown Speaks, and on LinkedIn as Shauna-Kaye Brown.
Okay, that's the most popular one too.
Mm-hmm.
You can reach out. All right, so reach out, everybody. And she's always available. very inspirational and very, very committed to the work. And we will talk soon. Everyone, please enjoy your year. Make sure that this year doesn't pass without you doing something good, at least one good for this year. Have a great time, have a great month, the first month of the year. Set up some foundation to do something useful this year. And as Shauna-Kaye said, take it one step at a time. Don't sweat the small stuff. All right. This has been very productive, very, very productive show, EduTALK, and we will see you next week. Walk good, everybody. And thank you very much, Shauna-Kaye, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
See everybody next week. Yes.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.